So they would go in and listen to and get involved in worship, and they would be excited about worshiping for God, but the whole professionalism, and I don't say that negatively because I like good music, but the whole professionalism of the music and the knowledge of how the musicians have of how to get a crowd involved and engaged, whether it's church or in the secular world, those things can begin to play in there, and you can be drawn into the experience. And now the experience becomes a substitute, and you can hear a sermon and be fired up about evangelism and about reaching the lost and about doing this for Jesus and all those things, and it becomes more of a program than a personal agenda. And that transition from having a fire for Jesus to carrying on with the religious activities of your church. I'm not saying those activities are bad in any way, but there's a time that those primal experiences that we had that were so precious to us and so important of us, somehow the meaning of those gets transferred into other things, gets transferred into the mission of the church and the work of the church, and hearing the sermons. You hear sermons where the Lord really speaks to you, and then you hear a bunch of sermons that He doesn't, but the sermons are still interesting, exciting, and compelling if the guy's a good speaker. You have a worship, you can have somebody playing a guitar that you can play very well around a campfire, and you can be in tears before the Lord and praying. And that experience, you have it with a band that's really good, but then the move of the music and the emotion of all that stuff, it's hard to distinguish between I'm really being touched by the Lord and I'm being emotionally moved by the music. Just like it's difficult if a speaker is really good of saying the Holy Spirit just stimulates something in my mind, and that guy just made a good point, right? So those things begin to kind of merge. It gets muddy, and because it's all good, and because it's all about God, it's all about Jesus, it's all about ministry, then you don't think twice about it. You don't think about, oh, I need to separate these things out. I need to focus on these things versus the other things, because they're all about Christianity. They're all about good stuff. It's not like it's not like they're playing, they're trying to get you to worship Black Sabbath music. I mean, the music is about Jesus and about God and about love. It's not like the preacher is trying to teach you out of the satanic verses. I mean, he's still preaching out of the Bible and he's talking about things. But I find there were a lot of Christians that I'd run into that are trying to carry on with their religious activities, hoping that the fire that they experienced when in their early walk with the Lord can be reignited. And so they double up on religious things, they double up on activities in the church, and they don't really know how to describe that first love, because it wasn't long before they had it and they were Christianized, right? They were brought into the Christian culture. Because let's face it, when we were saved, none of us, we weren't into Christian culture. I mean, I was in church, I was a church member when I was saved. I was saved outside the church. I was saved kind of in the rock and roll thing, but I knew the difference because I was a kid in church. I knew the church culture very well. I knew the right things to say, when to stand up, when to sit down, when to say hallelujah, when to not. I knew all of the proper behaviors for the culture I was in. And then I got saved, and for a while I was almost rebellious against those things because all I cared about was Jesus. I didn't care about those things anymore. But because I kind of grew up in the culture and got saved outside of it, then I recognized that there were separate things, right? The Christian culture didn't save me. I didn't respond to an altar call. I responded to the Holy Spirit speaking to me directly in my bedroom, right, after I played at a rock concert. Okay, so because my religious experience and my salvation weren't connected, I saw that. In fact, I even challenged the pastor. How come you didn't tell me these things? And he was saying, well, I did tell you those things. And I think back over it, he was kind of telling me those things, but not directly. because he had to be careful about how he said it, not to insult people who were confused. Yeah. And so I find a lot of people who they experience salvation, whether inside or outside the church. They really have a love for the Lord. They really have a fire for the Lord. They want to share their faith with everybody. They're excited when they meet another Christian, particularly another new Christian. And they're doing all this stuff together, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's what that woman was involved with, right? She got saved. She was involved with all these young Christians in this church. There was new activities, new things going on. And all of a sudden, for her, the line between that experience with Jesus and those experiences in church was all blurred. And probably many people were telling her they were the same thing, either directly or indirectly. Yeah, it's exciting to be here, isn't it? Because we're believers. It's exciting. That's why it's exciting to be here. Not because the events are exciting and it's being staged that way and it's being promoted that way. And again, I'm not saying anything negative about that. I'm just saying that it can be easy for you to assign the same meaning that you assign to your early passion to those other things if nobody warns you about it. And if I'm running a church program, I'm certainly not going to do a disclaimer like they have to do with all the drugs, right? When you see a drug, they say, oh, you got erectile dysfunction, here's a great drug to take, and your love life is going to be great. Now you're going to be on the beach in the moonlight, and the beautiful woman is going to love you a lot, and I'm sitting there going, well, they both look good, and they're not fat like me, and the guy's got all this hair, and the girl's really pretty, and I'm thinking about all that stuff, and then they go, don't take this if you have, this could cause you to die, to fall over, to puke, They start going through all the things really fast, and then they go, oh, you really want to take that? And you listen to that, so we don't expect the pastor when he gets up and says, I'm about to teach this really cool series, and it's going to go on for the next 6 weeks, and it's going to be about this, and you want to be here for every time you see it. Oh, by the way, here's a disclaimer. Don't substitute this for the voice of Jesus. And don't substitute don't think about my excitement as that same excitement and passion you felt when you experienced Holy Spirit. They're not going to give those disclaimers, right? But because they want you to be excited about what they're doing, they're trying to make you excited. But that whole culture of the excited church has that effect of, particularly for new believers, it's easy to get confused. That excitement I'm experiencing about that cool opportunity that I have for a 6-week seminar is the same excitement that I had when I first experienced it. And so, hey man, come on in. So, as a result of this, because these people don't...
You want me to sit here? You guys can sit here.
We can sit here.
How are you? So, Pastor Gary, when everybody was going around talking, what I heard you talk about was relationships. And was what? Relationship. Okay. And it's easy for us to have relationship with physical people, physical animals, physical objects, but it's a lot harder to have a relationship with the spiritual people.
Right. Not only is it's harder, but also it's foreign territory for us. When we're first saved, the Holy Spirit opens us up to this territory, right? And we experience it without understanding it. We don't know what we're experiencing. But we're experiencing something very real because our human spirit is alive. But we don't understand it. Quite often it's not really explained to us what's going on. And so we're trying to make connections. Okay, I feel this way, and worship is great. I feel this way, and something was read from the Bible that really touched me, or the sermon touched me, or this person ministered to me. And so it's hard for us to say, not look at that as cause and effect, but to say, because I'm now a spiritual being, I'm spiritually alive, I have a relationship with the Lord, then all of these other things now have more meaning, right? There's more value assigned to those things inside of my life because I'm a spiritual being.
Because you're spiritually alive.
Because I'm spiritually alive now. And so I think what happens is as people get involved in all of the church stuff, and again, I'm not saying this stuff is negative, but it's easy for us to assign the value of that, because those things are exciting too, but in maybe in a more physical way, or more emotional way, or more mentally stimulating way. Those things are exciting. And that excitement and that passion that we have for the Lord, and that excitement and passion that we're experiencing in all this stuff in the church, kind of get merged together. They kind of get mixed together. And then if we're not attentive to the first love, to that passion we have with the Lord, but instead we're attentive to those other things, because they are exciting and they need volunteers and they need help, and it is for the ministry, and it is for the good of the church.
And I can do it.
And I can do it, right? There you go, I know how to do that. So after years and years and years of that, of faithful service, many people look me back and say, what happened to me? And they have this hope of recovering this sense of excitement and passion, of acceptance, of belonging to something bigger than themselves. But when they try to verbalize that, they're pointed back to the very things that they attribute to draining that out of them in the first place. Right? I love Jesus and I did all these things in the church, and 10 years later I'm really tired of it. I'm really tired, and I lack passion, and I'm dull, and I don't have the excitement anymore. And so how do I recover that? They go, well, you need to pray more. And then you need to do all those things again. Right? So that's what happens. I mean, people don't say it that blatantly, but that's how you hear it. Right? Well, you just need to get involved. Like what? Well, you need to park cars for Jesus. You need to lay hands on those cars you park them, whatever it might be. And you need to be involved in a prayer ministry. You need to be involved in the altar ministry. And you're going,
You
okay.
get involved in all those things, and then you don't have any energy because you're not involved in the right thing or the one thing that God really wants you to do.
And you don't know what it is, right? You don't know what it is. You don't, because you didn't have time. You were quickly thrown into all the other stuff. I mean, for me, I became a believer, and within 6 months of being a believer, 19 years old, and 6 months of being a believer, I was a youth minister and the music leader for my church. 6 months. And I think back and I'm going, were those people crazy? And they had to be crazy. But I was definitely the best musician in my church. And they went from, an 80-year-old choir that they sometimes fell asleep in the middle of the anthem to a choir full of young people, vibrant, energy, exciting. So I was part of the problem. I mean, when I look back at them, some of these people became believers because they caught on to my passion. I led them through 2 or 3 years of ministry and activity and music and evangelism and all these various things. I didn't know. That's what you're supposed to do.
I just was thinking about as you were speaking, and I think that the enemy uses that so much because if they can take the passion out of the believers in the church, then most people that attend the church are just like churchy, and then non-believers don't. It just shows them that it's boring, not exciting, not of interest, because there's so many Christians with that mentality that are just dismayed, kind of just going to church and have lost that except they don't have it anymore. And so when people see that, they see the people in the church and say, what do you guys have that I have? I think that a lot of people see it like that.
Because they don't see the relationship, they see just another group.
The group that's meeting, but not real good, that has lost its passion for its person.